It is my pleasure as Chair of the Royal Commonwealth Society to welcome you all to this webinar on the Commonwealth towards Kigali 2021. I'd also like to extend a warm welcome to their excellencies, the Commonwealth's High Commissioners, who would ordinarily be hearing me speak at this time of year at our annual High Commissioners Banquet, held in the stunning Guildhall and with the support and partnership of the City of London. Due to COVID, however, we've had to convene you and our other guests today online, but are delighted that so many of you representing so many different parts of the Commonwealth community and beyond are here with us today. I want to give just a quick introduction to us and then introduce the fantastic panel we have for you today. As the oldest charity dedicated to the Commonwealth, the Society occupies a central role in this voluntary network of 54 nations and 2.4 billion people, a network for the future. The RCS is a trusted convener linking together the members of the Commonwealth family. As a charity, our work focuses on community literacy, equality, and the environment. As you may have seen in the UK Commonwealth Chair in Office report covering 2018 to 2020 launched yesterday, we have been pleased to contribute towards the commitments made at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, or CHOGM, in these areas, and in partnering with the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office on a number of key projects. I want to thank in particular Philip Parham, UK Envoy to the Commonwealth, for his and his lovely team's support and for being an exceptional partner. And I also want to thank Paul Double, the City of London Corporation's Remembrancer, who is a wonderful supporter and partner. Today, we look ahead from that report. We will learn about the UK government's priorities during their extended period as the Commonwealth's Chair in Office. We will explore what opportunities there may be for Commonwealth countries as the UK has left the EU and gain a better understanding of considerations for businesses and charities alike when operating in the Commonwealth. And we will do all of this in just 1 hour. So I'm delighted to introduce today's panelists. We're absolutely delighted to be joined by Lord Ahmad of Wimbledon. He's the Minister for South Asia and the Commonwealth at the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. Having had a 20-year career in the city working in banking and finance, Lord Ahmad held a number of ministerial portfolios in Her Majesty's government, including communities and local government, transport and aviation and trade, before being appointed to the Commonwealth portfolio in June 2017. We're very fortunate to have him as the Minister for the Commonwealth. We're also absolutely delighted to be joined by the Right Honourable the Lord Mayor, Alderman William Russell. He took office as the 692nd Lord Mayor of the City of London last November. Alderman Russell has over 30 years experience in the city, including holding senior positions in the banking sector. He has served on the board of Innovate Finance, the industry body for the UK-based fintech community, and is also an educational entrepreneur. Like me, he is an advisor to the UK Board of Trade. And we're absolutely thrilled to be joined from Nairobi, Patricia Ithau. She is Regional Director for the Stanford Institute for Innovation in Developing Economies. SEED is building a network of like-minded individuals from Silicon Valley to Sub-Saharan Africa. It's a role that harnesses her nearly 30 years of experience in managerial, executive, and chief executive roles at Unilever, Diageo, and L'Oreal. Patricia is a trustee of the Vodafone Foundation and sits on a number of corporate boards, as well as the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, and she works with Trademark East Africa. So warm welcome to all of you, and we very much look forward to hearing your insights about this opportunity in the Commonwealth, which we think is vast. So Lord Ahmad, I want to start with you and firstly congratulate you on an impressive period as the Chair in Office of the Commonwealth and for being so inclusive of the entire Commonwealth family. With the UK having an extended period as Chair in Office until CHOGM, what's on the agenda? Will the UK continue to work towards the three-pillar strategy, which includes non-governmental organizations such as the Society acting as a pillar, alongside governments and intergovernmental organizations, the Commonwealth Secretariat?
Well, thank you very much, and good morning, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. May I start, first of all, thanking you, Dr. Yu. Linda, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you over the last 3 years or so on this really important agenda, which I know you do and everyone on this call and beyond feel extremely passionate about, which is the incredible Commonwealth family. And in that regard, I would like to thank the RCS for organising this very timely webinar and, of course, inviting me to speak this morning. Just before we came on air, we were having a bit of an exchange about the new world which surrounds us, and the fact I'm reminded of a comedian's sketch recently that all our calls seem to start with, "Can you see me? Can you hear me?" 12 months ago, none of us would have imagined that. And indeed, all of us would have said we were more technology savvy today than we are maybe even 6 months ago. But with that, there is a sense of regret. That is a shame, as you've already said, Linda, that we're not meeting in the grander surroundings of the traditional High Commissioner's banquet. But it's nonetheless a pleasure to be with you and indeed my co-panelists, and therefore a privilege to be here alongside the Lord Mayor and Patricia Ithau. Uniting, as you said, 2.4 billion people across 54 sovereign states, drawn from the Americas all the way to the Pacific and everything in between. Spanning 6 continents, the Commonwealth has what I would describe a quite unique range of partnerships and relationships. As you mentioned, we continue to strengthen these partnerships by working closely with the distinct 3 pillars of the Commonwealth. Importantly, the member states, all of us coming together as one under the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth Secretariat, which is pivotal to ensuring delivery on policy and programs. And of course, importantly, let us not forget the intergovernmental organizations, the Commonwealth Foundation, the Commonwealth of Learning, the Royal Commonwealth Society, and many, many other Commonwealth organizations that work incredibly hard to bring the Commonwealth to what it is today. In the past few months, if I may, just reflecting on the pandemic which continues to engulf us, we've actually responded as the Commonwealth family and found ourselves in a different world. But our partnerships, our relationships have underlined the importance of global collaboration, and particularly of the Commonwealth. I'm often asked, my children have just gone back this week for the first time in 6 months to school collectively. I've never seen my children so eager to get out the front door and to be at school, be ready well before time. So the world has changed in many ways. But equally, whether we're talking about our homes, whether we're talking about our towns, our communities, our cities, our countries, and indeed the institution, the Commonwealth that blends us all together, if there's one defining insight that I would give, my own personal anecdote, and I'm sure this reflects for many, is the real realization of the interdependency of humanity. You know, whether I'm relying on my 6-year-old to provide me entertainment in yet another what seems like a continuation of, in the early days of the lockdown, a kind of Groundhog Day continuation, but equally how communities have come together, helped each other. And the Commonwealth family is no exception, how we've come together on learning from each other's experiences around the pandemic. And let me assure everyone that in times of uncertainty, when we face these common challenges and difficult decisions, it is more important than ever that we come together, we stick together. And the United Kingdom is fully committed to delivering a strong global response, working with Commonwealth partners and other international organizations to ensure that we come through this together. None of us is safe until we are all safe. The UK has so far pledged £769 million in UK aid to end the coronavirus pandemic as quickly as possible, and to also address its short and long-term impact. Myself and my colleagues have been working bilaterally and collectively through multilateral organizations to ensure the response in country across the Commonwealth and further is focused on the coronavirus pandemic. Earlier this summer, all 54 Commonwealth leaders came together to speak with one voice in a joint statement on the response to the pandemic. Leaders committed to protect the health of the Commonwealth's 2.4 billion citizens by improving access to essential health services and safe and affordable and accessible medicines and vaccines for all, particularly the most vulnerable and high-risk populations that under such pandemics suffer even more. They also spoke about protecting employment opportunities, and I'm sure the Lord Mayor will reflect on this quite specifically, particularly for the Commonwealth's 1.2 billion young people, and reaffirm their commitment to the Commonwealth's fundamental principles and multilateralism. They also addressed international trade disruptions and committed to protecting small and vulnerable states. And that's an important part of what defines the modern Commonwealth. And although the times are indeed tough, as I've said, we also committed to offering opportunities, and the opportunities in front of us must be seized. The Commonwealth, as an organization, as a coming together of these incredible people, is committed to tackling global challenges, and we must work together to build back better. I'm also thrilled to be speaking to you for the first time collectively, although I had my first formal outing, I would say, in speeches as my third reincarnation, as I call it, within the context of the Foreign Office. As a Minister of State at the Foreign Office for now over 3 years, I started as a Minister at the Foreign Office and then a joint Minister across DFID and the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. But I'm delighted to be addressing you today as the Minister of State from the newly formed Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. The coming together of our strength in development and diplomacy and our Commonwealth commitment, which is, as they say, see what it does on the tin, reflects our commitment and continued commitment to strengthening the Commonwealth. It bolsters our ability to support the global effort to recover from this pandemic. And as Minister for the Commonwealth, I'm particularly proud that this Commonwealth name remains front and center of our thinking and policy making. As many of you know, and Linda, you mentioned it, yesterday we launched our report on the last 2 and a bit years as Commonwealth Chair in Office, an extended Chair in Office. Little did I know in 2018 that we would still be having this honor to be the Chair in Office. But it provides, I hope, as many of you, I hope, have seen, a comprehensive overview of the achievements and progress on delivering upon the leaders' commitments. And we are delighted that the programs and projects funded by the UK are delivering real results. We have collaborated with partners, member states and various Commonwealth organisations to deliver over £500 million of UK funded projects and programmes under the 4 CHOGM themes from 2018: fairness, security, sustainability and prosperity. And very briefly on sustainability, the UK has been leading and supporting Commonwealth efforts to protect and clean up our oceans, from increasing the resilience of marine economies to reducing plastics pollution through the Commonwealth Clean Ocean Alliance. We've been absolutely honoured to partner with Vanuatu in this respect. To strengthen security, the UK has directly helped over 30 member states enhance their cyber security capacity. We worked with other key Commonwealth partners such as Singapore, sharing the UK's world-beating expertise to train over 1,000 individuals across the Commonwealth and fund 7 national cyber security reviews. Partnerships have been essential to our work in a fairer future. The UK-funded Commonwealth Partnership for Democracy, which brings together the Westminster Foundation for Democracy, the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, and the Commonwealth Local Government Forum, has convened parliamentarians and civil society organisations at the international, regional and national level to promote and uphold and strengthen democratic culture. They are focused in particular on improving the representation of marginalised groups, women in particular, young people and people with disabilities, and the LGBT community. Meanwhile, the UK-funded Equality and Justice Alliance, of which the RCS is a very important and key member, has helped 6 Commonwealth countries to repeal or reform outdated legislation which discriminates against minorities or fails to protect women, girls, and LGBT people. And to create a more prosperous future, we have delivered initiatives aimed at improving business environment, boosting intra-Commonwealth trade and investment, and empowering women in business. The She Trades programme is a shining example of that. I hope that many of you will be able to read the report for yourselves and see what has been achieved. But it's been only achieved because we've worked together. And it's my great privilege to continue to work with you as we continue, as Linda, you rightly said, to look forward in our planning for Kigali and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lord Ahmad. It is absolutely been a delight to partner with you, and I'm very excited about this extended opportunity. And we will, I'm sure, in the course of the next hour, get into some of the more specific opportunities for instance, the City of London, for which I'm going to turn to the Lord Mayor. So this additional period, talk us through some of the opportunities that this offers for cooperation between the City of London and the Commonwealth.
Absolutely, Linda, and thank you for having me on this panel. And Lord Ahmed, I loved your opening lines. The other one I would add is, "You are on mute," is probably going to be even the most common line. I've decided to get a poster saying "you're on mute," and I've got to work out what the cartoon's going to be. But I think that would be a good business line of posters with "you are on mute." Look, it's wonderful to be here and having this extra time as CHOGM chair. Means we can build on the already solid relationship between the city and our friends and its friends in the Commonwealth. And as you know, the City of London Corporation works very closely with many Commonwealth institutions, as yourselves. And as Lord Mayor, I'm very much looking forward to attending the CHOGM Business Forum in Kigali next year. Those who don't know, I have been to Kigali. I was there I'm a very keen cricketer. And you'll see in the background there's some cricket photos. But I was there for the opening of the wonderful ground in Kigali a few years ago. My sons have not forgiven me for missing the run out in the semi-final that would have got us to the final. So it's still, it comes on, they mention it far too often. But however, you know, we are now very much in the city focusing on speeding up the recovery, even though I totally understand we aren't going to be rushing back to the normal. In fact, I call it a repositioned normal when we eventually get there. But it's, you know, a lot of the things we're asking, and you mentioned, I mean, Lord Ahmed, was, you know, how we build back. The key for me is building back better as well. And that question has dominated most of my discussions around the world. I've been on a number of virtual trips in various countries since March. And COVID-19 has demonstrated the resilience of sustainable investment. We've seen the core thesis of ESG, managing risk, validated as ESG strategies outperform in a global economic downturn. And in particular, the city is keen to ensure any recovery is a green one. In fact, I am hosting a Green Horizon Summit in November. It will no doubt be virtual, even though I'm co-hosting it with Mark Carney. Mark has promised me he'll fly back from Canada, but even that may not be possible. And this is all running into the preparation for COP26, which many of you know will now be held in Glasgow in November 21. And the UK government has been working closely with fellow Commonwealth countries to make for a greener future. And earlier this year, many of you will remember the UK government launched the Sustainable Infrastructure Fund at the African Investment Summit. And this is a fantastic opportunity for commercial investors in a range of Commonwealth markets to partner with government to boost sustainable infrastructure. And in the city, we have commissioned an external analysis on blended finance and the important role this will play in creating a carbon-free economy. And the unique position of the City of London means we can stimulate interest in financial offerings dedicated to funding sustainable products. For example, we are working closely with the Impact Investing Institute in pursuit of mobilizing private capital at scale into impact-focused investment. And our Green Finance Institute is leading the think tank in the green economy, both of which demonstrate that London is a centre of excellence for sustainable finance. And the other thing I would add, apart from the green, is the digitisation. And I'm very interested to hear what Patricia has to say on this, because you know, Kenya and Nairobi are way ahead of a lot of other countries in this digitisation. And I was on a call the other day where Matt Britton from Google said that the growth in internet traffic has grown by 60% since COVID happened. And this digitization is happening much faster. Businesses are saying to me, you know, we brought forward plans, you know, within 6 months that we were meant to be doing over the next 2, 3, 4 years. And I think that is something which is going to be a huge part of what we can do in the city, particularly with my fintech hat on. But I'm sure Patricia will talk about it. But in Kenya and particularly, you are a long way ahead, and you don't have those legacy systems that we have in the developed world. But anyway, that is all I would like to say for the moment, Linda, and thank you.
Thank you very much. a rich set of issues for us to contemplate. Thank you very much to the Lord Mayor. Patricia, that was actually a lovely entree to you, because the intro to you, because what I was going to ask you was, how should businesses strategize about the Commonwealth? What are some opportunities that you find particularly exciting and noteworthy?
Hey, good morning, everybody, and thank you so much, Linda, Lord Ahmad, and the Lord Mayor for for allowing me to be part of this wonderful forum. So let's talk about strategizing in the Commonwealth. I think you can't speak or talk to anything at this point in time without speaking about the crisis that we're in. And yes, all the points that you make around, you're on mute, can I see you? And also testing backgrounds has really become the new way and the new world order that we live in. But let me talk a little bit about, as we strategize in the Commonwealth, some of the most important lessons that this crisis has reminded us. And that as businesses, for me, because that is what I live and breathe, is that one of the biggest things about the way we'll strategize going forward is that business is now about protecting lives and livelihoods. So the question of sustainability becomes even more paramount, and without a doubt, the rallying call for purpose over profit is now being validated very, very strongly. So whereas we say that that businesses must remain sustainable and protect their shareholder wealth, there's an even bigger focus on ensuring businesses do strategize around sustainable growth. And this means that businesses and business leaders have to, as you look at what you want to do, you have to look at how you provide services, products, and solutions that people deeply care about and ones that are foremost to helping people advance. And in addition to that, there's the need for collaboration at the country, national, and regional levels in order to really provide that ingredient for success for businesses. And the fact that increasingly now, as a business, if you want to come into any of these markets, we have to spend a lot more time lobbying governments to ensure lesser protectionism and greater collaboration. And the other areas, of course, given that capital follows trade, therefore enabling cross-border collaboration, it is even more important that we collaborate more than we protect. So what can I say in terms of how, as a Commonwealth, we can draw, and what are the opportunities we can draw on going forward? The first, I must say, is that we have a lot of diversity, and we really need to draw on our diversity. The Commonwealth offers a crucial platform for the exchange of ideas, knowledge, experiences, and all these are facilitated by the special forums that lead to some of the biannual, for example, the biannual Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting and all the other meetings that we have. And it is important that fostering these partnerships and collaborations becomes even more crucial so that we address the challenges that face, in particular, the developing countries. And some of these challenges, as you know, are areas around insecurity, the governance, development gaps, climate change vulnerabilities, as well as, of course, facilitating business value chain linkages and enabling technology transfer, women and youth empowerment, among many others. I think the other big opportunity we have as businesses right now is taking advantage of the established partnerships to strengthen trade and investment ties amongst ourselves. And more regular B2B forums and conferences, I believe, will be more crucial among the Commonwealth countries as we go forward. And then the other area is this whole space around multilateralism. And as the major economies become more protective, the Commonwealth offers an opportunity to forge new trade ties across the different regions and economic blocs across the world. And this being, of course, a major consideration even for the UK, I can imagine, after Brexit. So let me now shift a little bit to the more micro level and talk to what I do as a day job, which is working with entrepreneurs. And increasingly now, entrepreneurs at the center of the ongoing evolution in all our economies, and they present the single biggest opportunity. So if you look at the future of a continent like Africa, it is actually in the hands of entrepreneurs. Most of these entrepreneurs are young people. They're below the age of 35, who have, as a matter of generation philosophy, decided to create and nurture opportunities rather than earn a living from employment. This therefore means that being at the center of SME and youth ecosystems is a matter of long-term survival and is one of the greatest opportunities for any business now. So you raise a question, the Lord Mayor, around technology, and we see that technology is enabling this renaissance. It must not be lost on us that technology-driven opportunities do take time to mature, given the level of investment required. Therefore, businesses leveraging technology to pursue a digital, always marketplace, we also must evolve, taking into consideration that countries like Kenya, yes, very well ahead in this space, but not everywhere are we at the same space. And how do we make sure we take cognizance of the traditional space that we're in and move along with it to really take advantage of this new future world that we live in. There's also a greater need to make sure that even as we do this, that nobody's left behind in the area of technology, and companies actually bring their customers along in this evolution. So yes, you are right, technology, one of the biggest opportunities, and at the center of it, entrepreneurs, and even at a greater center of it is young people, who are a very large part of the population in most of the developing economies in the Commonwealth. So at a societal level, there's also a need for businesses as an opportunity to start collaborating for purpose. We can compete for profits, but we must also collaborate for purpose. This is because the amount of resources duplicated towards societal needs through CSR or force for good activities, I believe can be best harnessed collectively. So there is a push to singly build brand exists, but collaborating will achieve greater success in this area. So in summary, my last word on doing business and the opportunities in the Commonwealth, the first is look for opportunities in the Commonwealth network and in some of the big countries where from a population and market potential, for example, India, Nigeria, Pakistan, Bangladesh. The other big opportunity is understanding the trade agreements with your country of production or trading. The next is seeing if the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council can help with the B2B linkages and sectoral market information. The other thing is seeing if there are common standards or trade facilitation aspects for exports. If you need finance, looking at whether you can cross-list or list in London. This is growing and London is adapting to give Commonwealth countries preference. The other big opportunity is examining the contract laws for any key differences and arbitration systems, which then allow you to look at, in the event of situations or things not working out, what is the recourse available. So that is, in a nutshell, my summary of the opportunities that currently exist in the market. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patricia. I'm going to come back to you later about the pitfalls. So, but thank you very much for highlighting some terrific opportunities. And of course, we as a society are centered around youth. And so particularly excited to hear about youth and entrepreneurs, our associate fellows, 1,300 of them, many of whom were the Queenstown leaders, our social entrepreneurs, amongst other things. And we certainly see them making a massive impact in terms of the Commonwealth. So thank you. Wonderful opening comments from the panel. Now, Lord Ahmad, I want to turn back to you and ask you, at next year's Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, what are the top outcomes that you would like to see for the Commonwealth as you hand over to Rwanda?
Well, thank you, Linda. And it's a very pertinent question. I think first I'd say the issues of continuity are important. I remember when I first took on this role, that what were the learnings, what were the experiences of events of the past, both in terms of the organization of CHOGM itself, but also the outcomes. And I'm going to be very candid. I think where we needed to do better, and we have improved, is the ability of joining the dots, continuity from what was done from one summit to the other. This shouldn't be about something that happens every 2 years in sort of some kind of silo mentality. So I've been speaking quite regularly to the Rwandan foreign minister. We're working very closely with them to lend whatever support we can in terms of the organization. And I'm, as someone from the outside in looking into preparations, they were ready to go this year. They'll be ready, I'm sure, to go next year. And the preparations look in very excellent order. And we're all looking forward to Kigali next year. The other thing is we're also working very closely with the Commonwealth Secretariat, sharing our hosts. I said to the team during CHOGM 2018, we should produce a kind of a red book, a blue book, call it what you may, of our experiences, what went right, what went wrong. So those pitfalls can be avoided. Anyone who's worked in business will know that if you can sort of learn from experience and avoid someone else falling into that same hole, you can help incredibly in terms of time and efficiency. So there's a lot of that going on as well in terms of structure. The overarching theme, many of people will remember from, was about delivering a common future, and towards a common future was the previous one. So I think there's a continuation, and the word future is something, Linda, you used in your comments. And again, listening to the Lord Mayor and to Patricia, I think that's an important element. We've got to be looking forward, but learning from experience. There'll be a real opportunity to focus in, just picking on briefly on a couple of the themes of my co-panelists. First of all, the Lord Mayor spot on both on the issues of cleaner, greener recovery. And I think the City of London, and yes, as a politician, I declare an interest of 20 years standing. So I suppose I will be one of, I have two reasons to really promote the city. But in all essence, as many of our Commonwealth partners knows, it provides a phenomenal opportunity in terms of, we've done all kinds of bond launches, from Masala bonds and everything else in the city, and we continue to work with Commonwealth partners in that area. And the issue of green finance, I think, is a huge area that the United Kingdom's very much committed to. And as we build towards COP26, I've been very clear in our discussions with both Rwanda and others, there should be a continuation. There should be a continuation of what the outcomes are from Kigali to make sure they're reflected fully within Glasgow 2021 in terms of COP26. And equally, I've asked the teams to look quite specifically at a Commonwealth component to COP26. So it's also important to maintain, sustain and strengthen the whole narrative around the Commonwealth and what's being achieved. My experience of the last few years has shown that there's some phenomenal work done at all levels, from the most local to international connectivity, but we don't talk about it, we don't strengthen it. And when you fail to do that, you're not communicating real and effective change. And the final point I just say about the opportunity, both Patricia and the Lord Mayor talked about technology. I've already, in my sort of responsibilities as a development minister, see that the pandemic has focused our minds on what we can do more effectively and efficiently. I think it changes the whole outlook and horizon on how we deliver education attainment in terms of empowering. Many of you know our Prime Minister is passionate about girls' education and qualitative education. How can we be more innovative in developing, and as Patricia alluded to, the hard to reach places in different parts of the Commonwealth in delivering quality education? That applies to business skills, and it applies also in terms of delivery of healthcare. How can we do things more remotely in providing support to many vulnerable communities? So there's a host of opportunities there. And I look forward to working with Commonwealth partners in advance of, and when I say partners, not just member states, the whole Commonwealth family, business, the whole civil society element. And the final point is, I do hope, and we're certainly working with Rwanda in this respect, we really benefited from the business forum, the youth forum, the women's forum, the whole bringing together of civil society, and the interaction that they weren't siloed fora, they had direct interaction with policymakers and decision makers. And I hope that will be a continuing theme of CHOGM next year.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much, Lord Ahmed. I think we can, I feel even more excited about this coming year and heading towards Kigali. So thank you. For the next question I have is really for the Lord Mayor. So from the meetings that you've been having with business and the city, from what you're hearing on your now virtual engagements overseas, and I do, by the way, look forward to seeing your sign, "You are on mute," at our next webinar, just to see what backdrop you managed to get on there. You know, what opportunities do you think there will be for Commonwealth countries when the UK, having left the EU, transitions out of the EU?
Thank you, Linda. And Lord Ahmed, another thing I would add when you talked about technology and digitization is one of the things we're very proud of in the city is the digitization and fintech creates financial inclusion, which is absolutely critical for many of the Commonwealth countries. So from that perspective, we feel very much part of helping with the financial inclusion. Look, I mean, there are lots of headlines around Brexit and potential outcomes, and we could debate that separately. But the city is looking positively to the future. We're supporting the UK government to secure trade deals, especially with those in the Commonwealth. And I mentioned my virtual trips, and I did, for example, as we know, discussions have been taking place with Australia and New Zealand, and they're now at an advanced stage. In July, I was lucky enough to do a virtual trip to Australia. It was an early start because of the time difference. So for about 4 mornings, the alarm clock was going at 5 o'clock. But on those trips, I was joined by Lord Grimstone, the Minister for Investment for the UK's Department of International Trade, who's also responsible for inward investment, and John Glenn, the Economic Secretary of the Treasury. And the context of the visit was during a break in the free trade agreement negotiations, where we discussed the recent launch of the consumer data right regime, which is very similar, for those who don't know, to what we have in the UK, open banking. In fact, Australia watched what we did in our open banking in the city and sort of in a way extended it and made the consumer data right regime even wider than what open banking has done. And it's early days, but that was something. And we also talked about the opportunities for, as I mentioned, the green recovery post the COVID pandemic. Now, it provided an opportunity to strengthen the relationships with a key trading partner and offer current and future investors reassurance about the future of the city. It also helped build the city's existing network of stakeholders who we would not be able to meet during physical visits due to the geographical limitations. The funny thing about COVID-19 is that I have reached more people as Lord Mayor under not travelling but doing everything virtually than I would have done if I had travelled. And we were talking earlier about that. I mean, normally the Lord Mayor of the City of London travels for over 100 days of the year, and obviously that came to an end in March. But the virtual engagement has worked very successfully. And apart from Australia and New Zealand, I mean, I've done virtual trips to Japan, to China, to America, and as I said, we have in a way reached more people. Now, during these virtual engagements, particularly with Australia, we worked very closely with the Treasury, UK Treasury. We identified market access barriers facing UK-based financial services firms operating in Australia and highlighted the opportunities and changes that could be made to support the industry. And the report looks at Australia's new licensing regime for foreign financial services providers will mean for UK firms. It also takes a closer look at the experience of UK-based asset management, banking and payment firms that do business in Australia. And it identifies how trade tools, formal FTA negotiations as well as regulatory cooperation can address existing issues to the benefit of both jurisdictions. So the work done with Australia, we help to create, hopefully we'll understand how we can create a more robust and mutually beneficial free trade agreement. Will no doubt put the UK in good stead to develop FTAs with other nations and maintaining relations with international firms is crucial to the city, and as such we're working on recommendations to government and the UK regulators to advocate in favour of the UK's regulatory regime remaining open to foreign businesses. And this work is crucial to support the UK's global competitiveness and attractiveness as an international financial centre. And we hope this will lead to greater collaborations between the UK and our friends in the Commonwealth. And thanks to the wonders of modern technology, remaining connected to the Commonwealth has been surprisingly smooth. And as I said, I've been lucky enough to attend many virtual meetings. And also investors, there are various investors conferences, engagement with the Commonwealth enterprise as well. And during this period, we have and should continue to increase that type of activity. And looking forward, I think that that's something that very much hope to continue and not lose any of the connections between our Commonwealth countries. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's delightful to hear that free trade agreements with Australia and New Zealand are advanced. So thank you very much for sharing your insights. And from your virtual trips, although I don't think anyone's going to envy you having to get up at 5 a.m., but it's certainly worth it, I think. Patricia, I promised to come to you on the pitfalls. We talked a lot about opportunities, but if you had to list them, what are the pitfalls to avoid when doing business in the Commonwealth?
I think if we look at the biggest pitfall that I speak to, is that from a micro level, it's really focusing more on short-term profitability over longer-term sustainability. I think the countries where you choose to operate in must see you as a national champion with a long-term interest of that country at heart. The second biggest pitfall I have seen from both my past experience and even in the present is really around this sense of applying a global mindset to local challenges. The business case for being global has severely been challenged since the global financial crisis, as we know. In fact, most of the leading enterprises across industries are today, without a fault, local companies over global companies, which is an exact opposite to the past decade, if we look at 2000 to 2010. So global standards must be retained, but perhaps not at the expense of local relevance. But if I say now, if I speak to the point that was being made around trade and tariffs, I think it's fantastic that the Commonwealth is gradually moving towards similar approaches to non-tariff trade regulations. But again, the challenge that we have and the biggest pitfall is that there is no common trade agreement across all the Commonwealth countries. Each is part of a regional trade bloc and tariffs are different. This can make it difficult and market access can be a bit complex depending on what your producing countries' agreements are with others. So, and the fact that as a Commonwealth, we also facilitate voluntary approaches and mandatory ones, implementation of course then becomes patchy. So while there is gradual convergence, it is slower than most of us would wish for. And it is one of the pitfalls and one of the things that one has to look at when you are trying to do business in this market. I think the final, the other 2 points that I'd like to speak to is that given the fact that the member states and in the Commonwealth, we are very diverse, from very developed G7 members to some of the poorest, this does present some challenge from a wealth diversity. And therefore, recognizing that smaller countries, when you do want to do business there, we need to support how they build their competitiveness and invest locally to develop our local value chains in order to bridge the infrastructure gaps. That becomes something you have to recognize if you actually do want to do better business in the Commonwealth. So that in a nutshell are some of the pitfalls, both from a micro as well as from a macro level.
Thank you very much, Patricia. And that certainly, I think, gives food for thought about how we overcome those pitfalls in the Commonwealth. So very much appreciated. I'm now going to pose a question submitted by a rather familiar figure to all who know the Commonwealth, our president, Lord Howe of Guildford. Lord Howe asks, does the FCO-DFID merger, which is greatly to be welcomed, give the opportunity to move the Commonwealth further up the UK foreign policy and strategy agenda? I think this one is for you, Lord Ahmad.
Yes.
Well, the short answer is to Lord Howe, who's a dear friend of mine and a confidant in many ways. He's a great champion of the Commonwealth, is yes. I think we just heard Patricia alluding to blocks, which then impede business flows. I think one of the big challenges we had as a member of the European Union was the inability to negotiate on what's best bilaterally as well. And I think, alluding to some of the reflections of the Lord Mayor as well, the free trade areas, the free trade agreements rather, that we are creating are reflective of what we believe will be the strengths as we negotiate different deals and aid connectivity. And I think bringing together the diplomacy and the development elements of our international interactions is going to be an absolute strength. There's the strength of saving time. Again, business was always about saving time. No reflection on government, but those who've served both in business and government, I always say when I moved from the city to Whitehall, what used to take hours and days went into weeks and months, and nothing is more challenging when you hear from your civil servants that, yes, Minister, that's a great idea, but we've now got to write round on this. And I'm thinking, will this take weeks or months? When I was a minister in one department, writing to another to get approvals on budgets, on agreed priority. So we need to both within government ease that. And I think the FCDO will provide that opportunity. And I think in terms of specific strands of assisting the Commonwealth, I think it provides a huge opportunity to do so much more within the context of the Commonwealth. We often talk about the commonalities of the Commonwealth, the fact that shared languages, legal frameworks, history, you know, that Commonwealth advantage. A figure often quoted, that 19% reduction in cost saving, but putting it in very simple terms, whether you're a small business operator or a large corporate, you know, if you can save time when it comes to contractual negotiations because you're working to a single legal framework which is understood, that helps. That provides clarity and speeds up the end outcome, which is a desired outcome to complete on a contract. And whether that's government to government or business to business, I think we're moving into a world where that will be greatly expedited as we've left the European Union and strengthen our relationships and strengthen work with organizations within the Commonwealth family.
Thank you very much, Lord Ahmad. I think we're all going to get used to FCDO. It's already rolling off the tongue, actually. But it's lovely to really hear how important the Commonwealth is in the strategy. So thank you very much. We're quickly coming to the end of our hour, but I want to squeeze in just one more round. And I know this is going to be slightly unfair, so bear with me. If you had to give one piece of advice about doing business or charity work in the Commonwealth, what would your one piece of advice be for people here to take away? I'm going to start with you, Patricia.
I think the first thing is that you have to collaborate with local actors in both business and the charity fronts, including having local talent and local workforce behind your endeavors. Second thing is really seek to serve an ecosystem of opportunities and challenges, as opposed to a singular or a monoline of challenges. And finally, I think as you try and do anything in a lot of these markets, look for legal justifications and regulations. The not-for-profit sector can be very closed in some of our countries and is definitely very regulated very differently if you're an NGO or a company limited by a guarantee. So really look for what are the legal justifications and regulations as you come into that market, and try and understand them in order to get the best out of the collaborations that you build in that particular market.
Thank you very much, Patricia. The Lord Mayor, same question to you. What would be your piece of advice to anyone thinking about or doing business in the Commonwealth?
Firstly, I'm Patricia's line of purpose over profit, which I've written down, Patricia, and with your permission, I think that's a great phrase. I think that's certainly a piece of advice which she's already given. But I also think that within the Commonwealth, there is the world's changed under COVID, we all know that. There is now a whole pool of global talent out there, which was always there, but now can be used. So people don't need to be necessarily in the same cities where your business is set up. Because of what's going on, because people aren't traveling, so much is being done Zoom. So I think that the Commonwealth provides, and has always had this talent, but this talent is much more available. And I think that's something which we should be conscious of. 20 of the top emerging cities are in the Commonwealth. So the talent's there. The other thing is that it has been proven, and we know this, but I'm going to reiterate it, but when it comes to successful businesses, diversity and inclusion make businesses more successful. All the data's out there. And so the diversity and inclusion is also there within the Commonwealth, so use it. And I think that is a very exciting time for the Commonwealth. It is also a very exciting time for the UK, because whatever happens with Brexit, we've got this opportunity. As I say, I was a Remainer, but I was never a Ramoner, and I've moved on, and now I'm even more excited and enthusiastic about the opportunities that this is going to provide the UK and our relationship with the Commonwealth.
Thank you very much. Lord Ahmad, same question to you. What is your advice for the Commonwealth doing business or charity work? What insight would you like to share with us?
Well, I think the opportunities there in the making, seize the opportunity. If I can, I mean, I've already alluded to the strengths of the Commonwealth. If I reflect back to CHOGM 2018, all countries committed to increase intra-Commonwealth trade to, what was it, $2 trillion by 2030. How are we going to make it happen? I think there's some good progress. We've seen the Commonwealth Standards Network. We've got 50 Commonwealth countries with national standards bodies, which will ease business flow. Coming back to something Patricia said about pitfalls earlier, I'm going back to my days as a banker. If you talk of a small business, one of the major pitfalls, and I'm sure Patricia's smiling, she'll resonate as it will with the Lord Mayor, was that businesses with great plans, great strategy, often fell at the hurdle of cash flow. And one of the cash flow challenges, which was exacerbated by the issue of late payments, how can we make standards apply across the Commonwealth, which will help ease the flow of payments so people actually abide by standards? And I think the issue of a Commonwealth Standards Network and further strengthening that is a huge opportunity. Trade Facilitation Project, we've again worked with the World Customs Organization, helped nearly 20 countries streamline customs procedures. So again, laying the foundation to easing business. And the final thing, picking up the point that the Lord Mayor made and Patricia does, harnessing diversity. I'm proud of the fact of my own Commonwealth heritage, as I often talk about it, which connects me with family and friends from the subcontinent out to North America and out to the Pacific in Australia. But that in itself lends strength to. So whether you're talking of a business, whether you're talking of a country, to those who are divisive voices and say, oh, we stick with people we know, or we stick with no, what a load of nonsense. Diversity is the strength of any living, evolving dynamic entity, and a country is reflective of that, and so is the Commonwealth. So I totally agree with my co-panelists. We seize the opportunity in a technology-enabled world with more people, including ourselves, more savvy about the language we use in terms of knowing what that Zoom doesn't really mean just zooming in on something. It really does mean connectivity from a digital platform. We must plug all equally, but I think it's a real opportunity to enable them. But a final word, if I may, just on for whether you're a charity, whether you're a business. We've alluded to the fact, and like the Lord Mayor, I've done plenty of a virtual visit. But I do hope in time, as we get through this pandemic, we do return to the literal and the actual. Because you know what? I, as a minister and someone who served in business, know that there's the benefit of doing these kind of formal interventions, the exchanges you have in the meeting room as you do the contract. But what really counts, what really measures when you're up against those hard decisions, whether you're a business, whether you're a government, is your ability through your relationships that you build, through knowing someone, spending time with someone to get things over the line. So I do hope as we work through this pandemic and yes, find the vaccine, that we'll be able to connect, not just virtually, but in actual terms as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Hear, hear. We look forward to that. It's been such a rich panel. I'm not even going to attempt to summarize. I think I would probably just stress that one of the defining features of the Commonwealth as a network, as a family, is that it shares values and it shares institutions. And I think that's come through very strongly today: diversity, inclusion, having institutions which still need work, but certainly gives that Commonwealth advantage. And looking at all of the rich initiatives that we've discussed, it just shows what opportunities there is to really, I think, build out the business side, the economic side, and the charity side, and around technology and entrepreneurs and young people. It's a very unique network and a very unique family. And I think we've just gotten a glimpse of all the opportunities and the rich agenda that we should anticipate for the next year until CHOGM in 2021, with the UK remaining as chair in office. And I want to offer the Society's sincere appreciation to this terrific panel for sharing all of that with us today. So thank you very much, Lord Ahmad, a great friend of the Society and the Commonwealth. The Lord Mayor, always lovely to partner with the City of London. And Patricia Ithau, a new friend, but undoubtedly a new long-standing friend of the Society. Thank you very much for sharing all of your perspectives. We're all looking forward to an impactful period with the UK remaining chair in office until the next gathering of Commonwealth heads. At the Society, we're particularly excited about our literacy and youth-led gender equality initiatives, which we have planned for CHOGM next year. For more on our projects and how you can get involved in our work to create a better world for all Commonwealth citizens, please go to our website, www.royalcwsociety.org, and follow us on social media at Royal CW Society. Thank you all for tuning in, for your support. It means a lot to us as a charity, particularly in this challenging time. So thank you all to the panelists, and everyone, please enjoy a lovely day.